Like, oh my Lord. Okay, when your boyfriend calls you and you're in the middle of a video, like, don't call me.
Don't call me.
It's 10 o'clock on Wednesday. What is going on? Oh my dear night. I may have to pause myself for just a minute. So why don't you keep chatting?
Okay, I will. So for me, my biggest ones are definitely, I like the drop sets as well as like the pyramid set. So a lot of times I do pyramid sets because I just like to be able to kind of progressively still stay in that rep range, but I do a lot of volume training. So a pyramid set makes it really easy to just kind of taper off, but still get in the lifts that I need. So there's straight sets, there's drop sets, there's supersets, there's giant sets, there's pyramid sets, rest pause sets. Somebody threw time under tension sets in there, and I'm like, I don't think that really fits in there. What else do you got?
Those were my main ones. Like, see, for me, I don't count pyramids as a set. You know what I mean? Like, I count, like, pyramid to me.
Or like a drop set.
A pyramid is like a progression. Like, that's what I consider a pyramid. So, like, if I am a pyramid up, then, or a pyramid down, like a reverse pyramid, I don't consider that like one of the sets. So my main sets that I would talk about, like, and I'm referring to this as like throwing in variation, right? So mine are typically giant sets, supersets, drop sets. Those are like my top three that I use, and I don't use them regularly. I feel the purpose of these different types of sets are really twofold. I use them mostly like giant sets or supersets. Okay, so supersets to me, and I guess people have different definitions, but for me, a superset has always been working opposing muscle groups, okay, back to back without any rest. So that's going to be like if you do a chest exercise immediately followed by a back exercise before you break. Or biceps and triceps, or like quads and hamstrings, or, or like even like abs and lower back. Those would be like supersets. So you're working opposing muscle groups. Giant sets are like more than one, well, more than two. I consider giant sets are 3 or more. So I would generally do a giant set 3 or 4 exercises in a row without rest, and they don't have to be opposing muscle groups. But I think we should talk about when should you use these different types of sets and why. So what are your thoughts?
You threw me off with the pyramid set because I'm like, I feel like that's all I do, or that's what I've been calling mine, because I because we add, like, we do the same exercise, just progressively make it a little bit harder, and then we go to straight sets. So it's kind of like this pyramid, and then it flattens out, and then, we drop back off.
Well, I mean, I do the same, but I don't know. I think that in my head, I was thinking for the purpose of this talk, I'm looking at more like consecutive. Like it's more in a row. So like a pyramid is typically how I normally train. But there is rest in between each set. So like the sets that I was thinking of today are more no rest until you have completed whatever it is. Like if it's
yeah. So there's different kinds of sets, because some of them, like the rest pause set that I use, that one has rest in it too, but it's that same exercise and then rest, right? And then again,
right.
So yeah, okay. So pyramid sets have rest in them, rest pause sets, but then like supersets, giant sets, if we're adding exercises together, I would say there isn't rest between those exercises, but then between sets, there's that rest again. So I guess sets would be maybe defined in 2 different ways, either,
So how would you define, Coach Katie, how would you define a giant set versus a superset? What do you consider a giant set?
Anything 3 and more. Yeah, 3 exercises or more. And oftentimes when it's a giant set, like I typically am working close to the same muscle group, like the whole time, not usually opposing muscles. So supersets, you know, you do kind of hit, you know, if you're running chest, then you're going to hit like your back for the other side of that superset. For giant sets, you know, it might be 3 or 4 exercises on the quads, just kind of switching it up. Right. Means that your weight's going to be lower, but your volume's going to be extremely high. So,
I mean, and you can do a giant set, I mean, really as like a circuit.
Yeah.
Like, so it doesn't even have to be the same muscle groups. You could do a chest and a back and a legs. And so for me, when I tend to superset or giant set is when I'm running out of time, like at the gym, right? But the benefit of it is also that you do get some cardio in there, because like your heart rate's going to get a lot higher when you're doing a giant set versus like one set for one muscle group and then you rest, right? So if you're doing like 3 or 4 exercises in a row, you're really going to have an elevated heart rate. So like, I know Lori likes, you know, watching her heart rate drop. So Lori, you have to see, if you do a giant set, how high does your heart rate get in relation to what it normally does when you're just doing your typical one set?
Yeah. I always think like if you're doing a giant set, and depending on how many reps of each exercise you're doing, like it's really close to, you know, the cardio buffs high intensity interval training, like you get your heart rate up and then you're going to rest between, you know, sets of giant sets. And so it really is kind of one of those hybrid workout types, because you can really get that cardio boost in there, that cardio endurance, kind of working on the stamina as well as, you know, building the strength at the same time. So I like giant sets. I like circuits in general. I just think they're fun. Sorry, I have flies in here. I'm in my garage. I just think they're fun because they just, you know, it's just one to the next and there's not as much thinking, right? So you can kind of just get out of your head for a little bit and just go to the next thing and go to the next thing. So definitely like that.
Would you recommend when you're doing a giant set, should you adjust your weight the same as you would like in a regular, like, so let's say, for example, let's say I am doing a bench press and I am going to pyramid up. So like, that means that my weight is going to get heavier on the next set, but my reps may drop because of that. So if I am doing a pyramid set, like of bench press, or my workout is pyramiding up, then if I'm going to do a giant set and I'm putting my bench press with like a pull down and something else, should I still be using the same weight as if I'm trying to go heavier each set?
See, I wouldn't, because I don't like failing. I don't think failure is there's no space in those giant sets for failure. That's not where you should be failing. That's not where you should be, you know, hitting that real close to failure. It should be like 2 or 3 reps before. I definitely don't. But depending on your goals, that might be the way that gets you, you know, just over that threshold, right? If you're plateauing and nothing's working, then, you know, throw something in that's a little bit unprecedented, like that, you know, where you've worked up and you're at that heavy load. But typically when you're throwing in other exercises, I don't like to see people fail or get to failure, because we're going to have form breakdown. We're going to have, you know, injuries happen and that sort of thing. So I don't. Do you?
No. Like, yeah. I would typically say if I were doing a giant set, I would likely have like the same rep goal for each set. So like, if I'm doing a giant set, I would typically call that like a round. Okay. So I'll say like round 1, if I've got 3 to 4 exercises, I'm maybe just doing like, I don't know, 8-10 reps per exercise. But then typically when I go to round 2, I'm probably not adjusting my weight. I'm probably not going to add more weight, because the fact that whenever I'm doing that giant set, my heart rate is going to get super elevated, right? So not only are you recovering from the lifts, but you're kind of recovering from the cardio a little bit too. And you generally can't go into the next round with added weight, or your reps are going to way fall off. So what I would say to do is, if you've got the same, and generally, especially if you're in a gym, if good luck trying to like do a giant set on two pieces of equipment. Somebody's going to jump in and take your equipment. I'm just telling you. But if you get it set up ahead of time, then what I would do is like round one, let's say I'm going 8 to 10. Round two, I'm going to try to get what I got last time. If I can beat it, then I will beat the reps. So like, let's say I get 8 on round one. Round two, I'm going to try to get 9, but at the same weight. Round three, I'm going to try to get 10. Now, you may have where the reps actually drop off, but what you're going to spend a lot of time changing weights if you're trying to add weight. So generally, I would just keep everything all together that you're going to do, like for your 3 to 4 exercises, and then just use that same weight. And then if you can do more reps, then do more reps. But the goal is not like really to add more resistance.
No. I think the big point when you're doing these sets though, is to make sure you're kind of getting your weight adjusted for that first set, so that you've got a weight range, or, a weight that's really close to, you're going to fatigue or almost fail within, 2 to 3 reps more. So that by that, how many sets do you usually do? I usually do like 3 or 4 giant sets, so sets of giant sets, right? So 3 or 4 rounds.
Yeah, like 3 to 4 rounds.
Yeah.
I would say typically like 3. Same thing goes like if I were doing supersets, and like what I end up normally doing is if I'm supersetting at the end of a workout, it might be something like I'm just trying to get arms in. Like let's say I was doing shoulders and arms one day, and I have all of these shoulder exercises that I have done, and then I just still have arms left. So I will just pick like 3 biceps and 3 triceps, and I will just superset those. And I mean, it just knocks it out a lot faster, but I'm not really increasing my weight a lot with that anyway. So you want to think about, the movements that you're doing shouldn't be like, I think of more, giant sets are, I would typically use those for bigger, more compound movements, whereas supersets I'm probably going to do for smaller. Now I will superset chest and back, but generally that is the biggest muscle groups that I would superset. I superset mostly chest and back and biceps, triceps.
Yeah. So we have some supersets and giant sets are going to save you time. That's kind of where their specialty is, right? They're going to save you time. They're going to give you that cardio boost. There's some definite benefits to doing that, and that's kind of where they fit into the workout, right? But what about drop sets? So what do you use your drop sets for?
I rarely do drop sets because but when I do, it is because I would use them typically on a lagging body part that I wanted to just torch. And like for me,
and torch, we're literally saying torch. Like you're going to heat up, you're going to feel the burn.
It's going to burn.
It's going to burn.
So I would like the most, the exercises that I have typically done with drop sets the most, are like, I've done drop sets like with dumbbells are typically my go-to for drop sets. And you may hear somebody say like run the rack. That's what they mean. You're running the rack because you're starting with like the heaviest weight you could probably do, and you're going down all the way to the end. So I'm talking you can look totally stupid by the end if you're doing like a bench press.
Weights and you're like trying to get those shoulders up, and it's like they're not coming up. Like nothing's working.
Or like, you see like a 250-pound guy at the gym who's done a drop set of bicep curls, and he's in them with the 2.5-pound dumbbells, and it's like killing him. And that's because you literally have so much blood in that muscle. Like you cannot pump out anymore. And so like when I do a drop set, it's typically at the end and I only do it one time. Like that's it.
I think that's worth pointing out, because I think I see this a lot in the gym. People get it wrong. Men get it wrong so much. And I think that they leave so much on the table because they're doing drop sets at like the beginning of their workout. And then those muscles are already spent, even for, just being, assisting muscles or supporting muscles for the next exercises. They're not reaching their full potential for that exercise as soon as they're throwing those drop sets in at the beginning of the workout. So use the drop sets at the end of the workout. Use them sparingly, because you're going to be sore. All of that lactic acid, like Holly said, the blood is in those muscles so intensely that like you can't do anymore. You're going to feel it. You're going to have a huge recovery after that workout for that exercise, for that muscle group. So make sure that, you're prepared for that too, because you don't want to be coming in and, repping out bicep curls and then not being able to, lift the kid up off the floor or something like that. So I think those are some good rules. We'll say loosely. Don't ever take anything as like, I would say it's usually a good rule of the fitness industry not to have rules in the fitness industry, because what works for some person doesn't work for the next, and you kind of have to find that.
Not technically rules. These are just like tips and recommendations from your like.
There's the word, recommendations.
You're two experts here. That doesn't mean that like everybody could do it, right? So I'm not gonna tell Jane over here, you need to be doing drop sets. I don't ever tell anybody they need to be doing anything, right? Because number one, I want them to like it, but I will say that like drop sets are just one tool that people will use. And for me, again, it's usually a lagging body part. Like, and I have not done a drop set. It's been a couple months. And now I'm feeling like I better be going to the gym and trying to drop set here soon. But I really like to do drop sets with side lateral raises. And you can't start very heavy. And typically, like if I'm doing a side lateral raise, you may even do like partial reps. And, a lot of people go like, that's a whole different story about but like so like shoulders, biceps, chest is a really good one. But I mean, like any muscle group you can do a drop set for, even if it's like I like to do them a lot like with like tricep cable press downs. I mean, your triceps will be like, you can't extend them at the end. Like if you start on the heaviest on the stack that you could do, like maybe, I don't know, 6-8, drop it, do it again. So I'll end up like the first set, I'll get 10 and then I drop and there's no recovery time. So that's the whole purpose of a drop set, y'all. It's like you're going from one to the other to the other. There's no recovery.
You just drop the weight. So now we're manipulating weights and we're not manipulating reps, right? Well, right. I guess you're just getting as many as possible. You're trying to get that weight.
You can get. But like, so what will happen for me is like, yeah, okay, I'll get 10. Leg extension is another really good one to do a drop set on. But so I'll get like 10 on the first one. I'll drop weight and I'm like, oh my Lord, I only got 4. So then I'll drop weight again. And then, okay, maybe I can get 6. And then I'll drop weight again. And my weight is getting lighter. And I swear I'm not getting any more reps. But the point is you're doing as many as you can all the way until the end. And you typically want at least like 5, 6 or more. Like, so you don't want to start a drop set where you've only got one more plate to go. You know what I mean? You want to make sure that it's challenging enough that you get multiple drops in weight, but again, you're not resting before you start again.
Yeah, like, yeah. And just to clarify, when you say 5 or 6 or more, you mean drops.
Drops in
so
weight.
The amount of times you can drop the weight, not reps. We're not talking reps here. We're talking drops, because your reps are going to be 20. Shooting all over the place. You just never know how fast that blood's going to hit, and
and then you'll know. And then
you'll know.
It's like, I can't lift my arms anymore.
Right. What's happening here? So, anything, like any special tips you have? I mean, you gave some really great tips on the drop sets. And if you guys have questions on drop sets, if you've got questions on supersets or giant sets, let us know. Straight sets are pretty straightforward. You do the same weight for the same amount of sets or reps for the whole thing. So Power lifters do it a lot. We do 5x5s a lot. For many, many muscle groups. It's just one of those things. So that one is pretty straightforward. It comes in so handy in so many things, or 3x3. But that's typically, it's just a straight set. You know, you might do 3 sets of 10, straight set. If you're seeing workouts, a lot of times they're straight sets.
Yeah, like I guess my straight sets typically have a rep range. Okay, so like versus more like, you know, 5x5, my sets are typically like 4 sets of like 10 to 15 or 6 to 10 or, you know, 4 to 6 or whatever it may be. So typically the bigger things I'm going to try to go heavier on, and those would probably be like around my 4 to 6 rep range, because I'm going to try to add weight but still stay in that range. Because sometimes I'll add too much weight and it's like, yeah, well, I was supposed to get 5 but I didn't get 5. So you know, whatever it may be.
Yeah. See, I need to do more of that. I'm always in the 3 to 5 range, and it's basically just hit it. For tracking purposes, if you guys are, you know, big into like tracking progress and kind of seeing that, like we talked with the supersets and the giant sets, that's why we don't change the weight often, but we change the reps because it's really easy to identify if you want to go back and calculate volume or whatever, to see how, you know, challenging this workout was, how loaded it was versus your next one. So if you're able to get, you know, 4 reps and then, you know, 6 reps or maybe 7 reps, you're able to track that pretty easily, and it's pretty straightforward. And then you can go ahead and, you know, compare that to the next one with the weights. When you're dropping weights and then get your reps go back up and it's just kind of all over the board for those sets, it's a little harder to identify that progression, or if there is progression happening. It's just a lot more maths. So your coaches have a lot more work to do if you've got a coach to figure that out.
So I would say, you know, these types of, you know, these types of sets, like the giant sets and drop sets and supersets, you know, like we said earlier, they're just, you know, very, they don't have to be as planned out. You can just like, when you feel like you need a little extra, you can throw that in there, but it shouldn't be something that you do like every week. Like I said, like drop sets, I may do a few a year.
Yeah, right, exactly. That one's kind of like one of those, you know, special occasions one, or I think that's where we're kind of at with them. Okay, Karen has a question. She says, so when you do a superset, do you keep the rest between supersets the same as straight sets?
What's your answer?
Yes or no. It just depends, but I would definitely set a rep or a rest period between those. During your supersets, you know, you might have a 2-minute rest. That's a long time between a superset, because normally we're running into like the higher rep range, right? Like I do supersets in that, you know, 10 to 15 range, and not so much in the, you know, 3 to 5 range. So, you know, your weight's a little bit less, your muscles are going to be able to recover. It's going to be probably your heart rate that needs that extended period of time to recover with the supersets, and same as the straight sets. So straight sets, like we were talking, can be varied, right? So it can be really, really high weight for, you know, just a few reps, or it can be, you know, pretty moderate weight maybe for higher amounts of reps. And so that rest range is gonna vary too. So I might, you know, if I'm lifting at almost maximum of my lifts, you know, at that 80 to 95%, no, I would say 85 to 95%, that high 10% or close to 100%, you know, your rest is going to be much closer to 3 minutes, maybe even 5 minutes. If you're lifting between that 65 to 80%, it's going to probably be, you know, 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes, that sort of thing.
I think it's one of those things too, like we had talked about in our discussion about heart rate and recovery, like between sets. So like if you're supersetting, for me, again, it depends on the muscle groups that I'm supersetting. If I'm supersetting like chest and back, then those are bigger muscle groups. My heart rate is probably going to be even more elevated, but I'm using bigger muscles. Therefore, my rest between those supersets needs to be a little bit longer than if I'm like supersetting arms, okay? Because they kind of recover quicker. Like the smaller groups are going to recover a little bit quicker, but they also fill up with blood super fast. So like, again, I would kind of gauge your heart rate on when you know it's time to do the superset again, because like people can give me a recommended like rest X amount of time, but if once you do it for a while and you know, like you just know when you're ready to go again.
And I think that's the overarching like thing we want to really convey here, guys, because we've got bodybuilding, we've got powerlifting, we've got so many women in so many different spaces, but it's really important to convey to you guys from our standpoint that you've got to get to know your body, how you recover, and, you know, kind of just like, I would say block out what everybody else is doing in the gym, or, you know, I really hate the trainers that come over and are like, I don't think you're doing it right. No, I am. Just, you know, thank you very much for that. Or, you know, you shouldn't be resting that long, or whatever, you know, their opinions are. It shouldn't matter once you start to get to know what your body is doing and how it's adapting to that workout. And it really does take a little bit of time to maybe, you know, feel into that and figure that out for yourself. I mean, Holly's been lifting for what, 20, 30 years? How many years?
Oh my Lord. Y'all, I started lifting in college, like literally this year, I think will be 30 years.
See, so 30. I mean, and I bet that she's still going to the gym with a curiosity about, okay, how is this working? What's it working? How is this feeling? You know, because you go through seasons, you go through changes, you know, week to week, it can be different. So you've just kind of got to be, you know, in that headspace of being.
Always learn something. Like, y'all know I'm the perpetual learner. All I do is attend school, like for my entire life. All I do is try to learn things. But like, even when you go to the gym, it can be just as simple as a different twist or a different turn in the wrist. But it's like things like you really want to like mentally focus on what you're doing. And so like listening to your body is part of that. Like how much recovery time you need, what you feel like after this. Like, y'all know my mom used to always tell me growing up, if it doesn't feel right, it's probably not. And, you know, same thing goes for lifting. If it doesn't feel right, then it's probably not. And if somebody's telling you to do something that doesn't feel right, it could just be a new movement to you. Okay. So don't get me wrong. It takes a little bit to know what it's supposed to feel like. But sometimes you're trying to do what the latest Instagram person did. And it's like, yeah, I feel like something is ripping out of my back here. I am not doing this right. You know, listen to your body, ladies. Like, listen to your body. Get the help of an experienced person, not like trying to watch a video on YouTube of the cute little girl who literally doesn't know what she's doing, but she looks good in leggings. I mean, come on.
You know, I think that that's something we said, like you guys here, like you are welcome to post anytime. If you have a question, you know, drop a video of what you're doing, drop a screenshot of, you know, your set supersets. If you want us to take a look at them, we're totally in here to make sure you've got that support. So just, you know, reach out for help. And, you know, if we can, if you've got questions that can be covered on one of these live, Wednesdays, we will definitely go over that to make sure that we're getting you that information as quickly as possible in the best way possible. I love that you said, you know, don't look at those cute girls, because I swear to God, if they're, I mean, for the most part, it's like, there's almost like this, I have a thing against women that are getting on these Instagram accounts and, you know, just like totally all decked out, you know, they've got the cutest sports bra on and the tiny little shorts and they look the part. And then they go to do this workout and it's like
I'm like, what are you doing? I just, okay, I will just sit there and watch it all. Like, what are, okay, so y'all, here's the question. And you know, I'm not judgy. I mean, people can know things that I don't know for sure. And there's like a million people that do know, but this is why I'm always trying to learn. But if literally somebody just turned 21, how many years of experience can they have? You know what I'm saying? Like, you have got to question yourself, like, she's like younger than my child. And I know what my child knows. And it's like somebody's either telling them what to say or, experience does matter. Like, and I don't mean just like knowledge. Knowledge matters, of course, too, but like, just always be sure to ask. Y'all know we're here, like she said, we're here to support you. We're not here to just talk and like to hear each other talk. We're here to educate you about something. So we need to know what you want to know more about. Okay, that is how we grow, you grow. Like, that's how we grow our community, is by getting out that content to you that you want. There's no point in us being on here if we're talking about things that totally don't matter to you. Okay, so we want to know what you want to learn. So please post that in here if you're watching YouTube later, or podcast, or whatever. If I ever get the podcast going, comment in there, please, because this is how, we give you what you need. We need to know what you need, what you want to know.
I agree. Yeah. So definitely let us know what you need. Invite your friends here, because they might be stuck in another group where they're not getting the support that they could be getting here. We want to help women, really feel confident about lifting and their ability to lift, and go to the weights, go to that section of the gym and start to lift, so that we don't have women stuck, in yo-yo diets and constant cardio and, just really just trashing, metabolism and, just kind of depleting what they could be building up. And so, tell your friends, let them know that we're here. Ask questions. If you see us posting about it on our personal pages, make sure you give us a like or give us a comment. Commenting on YouTube is really helpful. Sharing Holly's YouTube page is super helpful. If you see the podcast, tell somebody that it's there.
So let's throw out our information here in case anybody doesn't know. Okay, so like on Instagram, I am Fit with Holly. That is also my YouTube channel, is called Fit with Holly. And my website is also fitwithholly.com.
I love that. So I am at Coach Katie Bielefeld. So if you guys can see it here in the Zoom, it's Coach Katie Bielefeld on Instagram. I think that's how you get to my Facebook page too. Facebook is Calloused Fitness. That's the gym here. Website is www.callousedfitness.com as well. So yeah, and I have a very humble YouTube channel. I don't think I have a vanity URL yet, like Coach Holly, because I don't think I have enough subscribers. So I don't even
think I do
either. A bunch of numbers and letters that I'd have to shout out and try to remember. So I think you might be able to find my videos if you just type me in the search, because Coach Katie Bielefeld isn't, very common. So yeah, it'd be fun to connect with you guys, and just
thank you all.
If you have any.
Thanks for being here.
All right, you guys have a fabulous day.
All right, see y'all.
Let me stop the recording now.